Welcome in, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Parenting Puzzle with Dr. Owen. So we are very excited today. If this came across your feed in any way, don't move, don't go anywhere, don't scroll. What else did they do? They skip. They just stop. Keep watching, because today we have a really amazing episode. Not only do we have our usual superstar, published author, professor, supermom. Anything else you want me to add in there?
It's very flattering.
Yeah, the Queen of England herself. Do you have that picture ready for us? Everybody's been waiting. Okay.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, not only do we have that, we also have today, you have to stay, you have to listen, because we have an amazing special guest. I don't want to say this is the best show ever, because Dr. D told me that they can't all be the best show ever. But Mike, this might be the best one. So Mike and I got in contact through social media. I became a really big fan of what he's doing on Mike on Parenting. He's giving like practical, easy to implement tips across all kinds of different topics that parents have challenges on. I know we sent it over to Dr. D. Dr. D, I know you've became a big fan. So Mike, thank you for coming on. Why don't you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your story, about how you got into being a rock star parenting consultant on social media.
Well, I appreciate it. My name is Mike Wallach. I am a father of 4 kids. I am a board certified behavior analyst, which is not a common term and not a common title, but it just means I work with kind of the most challenging kids you can imagine, with extreme complex behaviors. And I'm a former classroom teacher, and I work full time for our local school district, where those students rise to the highest level of need. Myself, I go in with my team, and we kind of create the systems for that student to thrive. So I've been posting online for over a year, and pretty much it's one of those things where you have all these ideas in your head of like, yeah, this is really practical information, and I want to share it, and I cannot share this with someone whose kid is having a meltdown at the park. Like, that is not the appropriate time to talk to parents. Actually, what you just did was, so I want to get it out to people and see if it resonates. And that's what I started doing. I just got on my phone and just started putting out content that I would want to consume if I was a parent who's feeling frustrated with my kid and exhausted and like all out of ideas. So I really try to make it short and sweet, get to the point. I don't put any like brain science behind it. I don't want to go into like the rationale. It's just, if your kid does this, do this, and you'll see an improvement. Like, that's pretty much the gist of every single piece of content I put out there.
I love that. So you only been doing it for a year, so obviously the message is resonating. I mean,
yeah, I feel like it. Yeah, I feel, it's one of those things where you either get a lot of people who are passionate about it and like, yes, thank you, awesome, this is awesome, or this won't work with my kid, or this doesn't work in my country, or get out a belt, or these things. I'm like, all right, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen my kid?
But that's the cool thing about you being a behavior analyst, is that you're looking at the behavior, right? And you know how the behavior functions, and you know how the response functions, and that's where you're coming from, right? So it really does apply to kids, because we're not taking it sort of a specific personality or this or that. We're looking from a behavioral standpoint, and that's why it is so effective what you're sharing. If parents can do it, I guess, in the right sort of mind frame and with the right tone, and all those things play in, of course.
And that's so true. And nothing I share on my feed is like, your kid needs to do this. Your kid needs to say, it's you as the parent. Here are really simple things you can do that will improve your child's behavior, will decrease those like annoying or frustrating behaviors. I just focus on the parents.
Yeah. love that. I come from a behavioral background myself, so I know how accurate what you're sharing is and how effective what you're sharing is. And I think parents sometimes get caught in the weeds of it's hard. It's a lot of the things that we recommend are simple and hard, right? Like the concept is simple, the action is simple, but being able to do it with the right tone or with consistency, or, you know, being able to regulate yourself first and then come back and do it. That's kind of what makes it so hard, right?
Absolutely. And I think I want to share too is that I am a parent. Like I have 4 kids that are right outside this door right now that that sometimes I'm winging it just like any other parent. Like I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this strategy. If it doesn't work, I'm going to try the next strategy. So it's in what I said earlier about being exhausted. Even with the most amazing strategies and like consistency and all that, it is going to be exhausting no matter what. Because kids are energetic. They explore. They get into things. They're learning. So, and that's our job, to try to keep up with them and try to like push them different directions and kind of see what works and what doesn't work for each kid.
And Mike, I'm not quite as energetic as my 3-year-old. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? You know, one topic that I'm curious about, because I think we've heard, and Dr. D, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this topic has come up a lot. And like going through your content, I'd be curious, like your thoughts on this specific topic. The topic of like parenting guilt. Like you were just talking about how parents are tired. Parents are, I'm not as energetic as my 3-year-old, right? So maybe we're at the end of it's been a long day at work, and a parent maybe doesn't handle a situation the right way. Maybe they raise their voice. Maybe they're not putting in place the steps that they've learned, right, through your content or somewhere else. Like, what's your take on like how parents should deal with that guilt or handle modeling, making a mistake to their kids?
Yeah, can I share personal experience on here?
Always.
And I might get emotional because I haven't shared this with anyone. So this is tough for me to express, but I felt that parenting guilt just like a week or 2 ago, and it's been building with my oldest child. Like I don't know how to help her with her meals, with helping her portion size and make sure and these are things I've struggled with my whole life of like, you know, not taking another portion and like going for sweets and things like that. That's what I had been doing, is like helping her here, like, hey, we're all done, or hey, let's maybe grab some fruit, or try this or try that. And I kept doing it because I didn't know what else to do to, like, if I didn't say something, she would just continue, right? So I just had this feeling, and I knew when she would look at me, she would know like there's this unspoken like communication happening, and I knew I'm creating this environment where she's feeling this pressure from her parent, like I'm doing something bad, and I knew I was creating this potentially this lifelong struggle for her. And so finally what I had to do was just kind of find a moment where I could talk to her and say, what I'm doing, I don't like. I don't feel comfortable with it. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to stop doing all of that stuff that I've been doing to create this environment for you until I have a clear plan, until I have an idea that will benefit you and benefit our relationship. So once I stopped doing that, once I said that to her and expressed myself, it was a moment where we both cried, and since that moment, like our relationship has improved dramatically. And I understand this is for an older child, maybe not a conversation you would have with a 3-year-old. but it's allowed for us to just kind of get back on the same page. I'm still waiting, and I'm still thinking of ways that we can help each other in those moments. But I think that for me is just, you gotta be open with your kids, especially when you're feeling that guilt.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. Dr. G, I'm going to turn it over to you. I don't know what to say after that.
Well, I love that example. And again, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I know you said you haven't really shared this before, so thank you for being so candid with us.
So cut that part out. No.
But no, I think for me, what stands out so importantly about what you were saying is, in addition to being honest and being real with your kids, is also like having permission to not know it all, right? And to not always get it right, and to make mistakes, or to try what you think is the best thing, and then through trial and error discover it's not working. And to your point, you wouldn't necessarily have that conversation with the 3-year-old, but you might have it with yourself, or if you have a co-parent, being able to let kids know that we're in this together. And and if you have, things that I'm doing that aren't working, and you can give me a suggestion for older kids, that's great. But even if they don't, just being able to say, I'm trying my best, and I love you, and I care about you, and this isn't working. And kudos to you. Obviously, you're very adept at this, being able to say, I'm going to stop doing these things that aren't working. Because I think that is one thing that parents end up circling back, Jake, on your question about guilt, is it's not working, but we don't know what else to do. So we keep doing the not working thing. And that leaves parents feeling really unhappy and unpleasant. But I really, really appreciate this idea of modeling, having open, honest communication, admitting when something isn't working, and then, going towards the repair with your child, and being able to say, I care about you, and that's the most important, right? And just getting in there. I love that.
Yeah, and I've found a few times too, where I say a few times, probably hundreds of times I've done this with kids, is asking for their advice. Like, hey, it's not working, me telling you no. It's not working, me calling your name.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get frustrated. You got any ideas? Like, what's something I can do instead as your parent that'll help you in that moment? If you don't, and sometimes they'll just be like, I don't know. You're the
parent. That's your job, bro.
You can come prepared with maybe one idea. What about, what if I tried this?
Yeah.
And just kind of put it out there.
Yeah.
I love asking kids for their own ideas.
And it's kind of incredible. Sometimes, to your point, they say, I don't know, but sometimes they have really creative and effective ideas, or sometimes their ideas are wild. And the fact that we asked and opened that conversation and showed openness to even listening to them, that has an implication on the outcome as well, right? Like, just being heard and feeling like, well, even though, Dad said no, at least he heard me and said, that's an interesting suggestion, right? Ice cream for dinner every night, and I'll be satisfied after one scoop. We're not going to do that, but okay, thanks for trying.
And then you can kind of circle back to it. They gave you the idea of, okay, yeah, it doesn't help when you call my name over and over and over. And a lot of times as parents, we don't listen to their communication. Their behavior is communication. So they're showing you, they would never be able to tell you, hey, Dad, you're saying my name too much. Hey, Dad, you're telling me no too much. But they're going to show you with their behavior that you're overbearing, you're frustrating them. But maybe they give you an idea. Hey, Dad, instead of you calling my name, maybe you could just ring a bell, right? That's their idea. So, okay, that's a great idea. And so we ring a bell. This is just an example. I would never ring a bell. We ring a bell or something, and then it doesn't work. So now we can tell them, hey, remember that was your idea about the bell. So we can hold them accountable. Like, this was your idea. Let's practice it, and maybe practice it in outside of like the actual moment we need their attention. Those are all like, this is how my brain works as a parent. Is like, how do I build this skill? How do we practice this? How do we improve, instead of just like, man, failed, and just move on with my day or get frustrated. It's like, I want them to learn. I want them to build a skill so that it works, so it's effective, and we can all be coexistent in this world, in this household.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, we're modeling some really important skills for them at that point too.
Yep.
You know, that's really important. Go, Dr. D. Sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say that it's pretty easy to try something one time and be like, oh, that didn't work, and as parents to think that, certainly for kids to think that too.
Yeah.
And then we just stop. And it's like, actually, maybe not. And I love what you were saying about practicing, because maybe it isn't that wasn't going to work. Maybe it was just, we did it once and it didn't work that time, or none of us were ready for it, or we hadn't prepared and practiced for it. So we weren't all attuned the way we needed to be attuned, or whatever it may be. And that trying it a few more times might actually be giving it the real chance it needs to potentially show us what's going to happen. We could try it 5 times and it won't work. There's no guarantee.
Yeah.
But the fact that we actually gave it a real chance to work, versus, I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I see when I'm giving parents advice is, oh, we tried it, it didn't work. And then when we break down the circumstances, it was like, oh, okay, well, it's not a magic trick, so it's not necessarily going to work. I don't get at my wand, and like it's not going to necessarily work the first time, but this is what we're moving towards. This is what we're developing.
Yeah.
So I think that concept of practice is huge.
And that's spot on. And one thing I like to do is, I like to tell parents all the terrible, common parenting things that are out there that all parents do, to help parents be self-aware. But then if I do that, then I need to tell them a more appropriate or better way, a more effective way. So one thing I've mentioned here a few times is like saying your kid's name over and over and over and over. So I would like to give just like a really quick tip. If
Please.
you feel like you're doing that, Joseph, Joey, come here. Joe, stop that. Joey. Is if you feel like you're doing that, then you need to pair their name with something positive. And this means you need to be proactive. Joseph, I love that new shirt. That is like, where do you get that? Joseph, you're cute. Smile. Like, Joseph, I love you. Joseph, you're the best kid I've ever met in my whole entire life. Like, we need to pair that, because if your kid is constantly hearing their name with a demand, with something they're doing wrong, with something to stop, they're going to stop listening to their name. They're going to stop responding. Their name is going to become something negative. So we're kind of like setting up this cycle. So I'm just putting that out there to the audience here. Is like, if you find that, pair their name with something positive.
That's super cool, because you're right. We're conditioning kids to ignore us, which is the exact thing we're trying to get them not to do. Right. And that's the paradox of parenting, and why Jake and I say parenting is hard, full stop, because there are all these paradoxes in parenting that we don't realize until someone points out, you just pointed it out, and it's like, oh, right. Of course.
I think of that. Yeah.
Right. And
that's why you have the following you do, because what you just said about the name and it becoming negative was like a mind-blowing moment for me. As a parent, like I've said my kid's name over and over again. I didn't even think. Like, that's such a good tip. I never even thought that I could be like making their names a negative to them, because it's always with some kind of demand or correction. Yeah.
It's all it is put yourself in your kid's shoes.
Yeah.
If your spouse
yeah.
said your name over and over, like, what would you do? You would
ignore them.
Put in your earphones in.
I'm listening to Mike on parenting right now.
I'm on a work call. Exactly.
I mean, that's all it is. Even for 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds,
Totally.
like that young of an age, you have to put yourself in their shoes.
Totally.
How would you want someone to talk to you? How would you want someone to interact with you? How would you want someone to teach you a better way? That's it. That's all I teach is like put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm signing up for your class. I'm sold.
Mike on life. But no, but that's exactly going back to what we were saying earlier. Like, it's simple and it's hard, right? It's like, that's the underlying concept behind everything you're saying. And like, just this morning, I caught myself repeating an instruction way too I know this. Yeah. I've done the research. I've literally done research on this. And I like heard myself on the third time saying it without giving my child enough time to respond, especially given the mood state that was occurring right then. And finally, after like the third or fourth time, I was like, hello, what are you doing? Of course, you're not going to be getting the response you want, right? So this is where it's like simple and hard at the same time.
Yep. And each kid is unique. Each kid has their own processing time that they need, their own volume level you need to, like, all these different things you have to kind of, it's this puzzle you have to put together. And so I think one thing that I keep in mind as well is that I personally only expect my kids to be good 80% of the time. Like, it's impossible for them to be 100% because they are not robots. They are not AI or something. So when you have the mindset that you're aiming for 80%, when they are 20% of the time not sharing, not trying new foods, not being polite, then we're like, all right, I'm ready to help you. I'm like, our body, our reaction to that is less, share, try this new food, like, do this, because I expect you 100% of the time to do what I'm asking and be this like excellent model kid. So that has really helped me. And I think that could help a lot of parents out there. Just you should be aiming. I hate to say things like that when parents do this or do that, but I found it effective to aim for 80%. Not that we're aiming for like a B- kid, is we're showing them, just like us as adults, we have challenges. We didn't drink our coffee. We didn't sleep well. We are having an issue with a friend, and it's really affecting our mental health. Like, we have to be aware of that 20% gap, or else it causes so much friction and battles with our kids.
Yeah, I think you're kind of teaching with that 80-20 rule. Like, you don't have to be perfect. Like, it's okay to make a mistake every once in a while.
Yep.
You know, I'm not perfect as your dad or your parent. That's for sure. Especially this guy. Oh my God. We got some serious work to do. But like, I'm not gonna be perfect as your parent. Yep. Like, you know what I mean? And then also, you don't need to be perfect. I'm not expecting you to be perfect. Nope. And when they do make a mistake, and Dr. D has talked about this before on the podcast, it's a lot easier to remain calm and say, yeah, that's going to happen. It's like when you go see a movie, Mike, and like I might go see the new Jurassic Park World movie, or whatever it's called. My wife wants to go see that. And I go see that movie and I have expectations it's going to be the best movie ever in the history of mankind. And I'm like, and I go and it's like, that was just okay. Now I'm disappointed. But if I go into the movie and thinking, it'll probably just be okay, and it's better than that, now I'm all happy. So like, when things meet your expectations, you're gonna have a better reaction as a parent.
Love that. My username on Instagram is Mike on Parenting. I just changed it from it's been apparently parenting, which just means we have a kid, and apparently I'm parenting. Like, that's what I'm doing here. So you can find me on Instagram, also on TikTok is where I post videos. You can find me there. Also, maybe I could just drop my contact information in your
Great. Captions. That's great. But parents could just comment on your stuff and say like, hey, want to reach out to you, and then you'll just respond to them, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, you'll be getting a comment soon from me, Mike.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so before we move on, I need to apologize. I had some technical issues. That's why I have this weird screen. It's not my usual setup. You can't see my beautiful face as best as you usually can. So I apologize for that. Of course, we got two superstars on the line, and I'm looking like this, like a half screen guy. But we'll move on to the last word with Dr. D. But before we do, and this will be a tough one, Dr. D, we had a lot of good nuggets in there. But before we do, I need to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Louisiana Flag Football. Me and my son are very involved with the league. They're actually the biggest flag football organization in Louisiana. So if you're looking for something to get your kids out there interacting with people, not on the phone, having some fun in a competitive, safe, challenging environment, go check out louisianaflagfootball.com. We're about to get into the fall season pretty soon, so sign-up's going to be coming up for that next month. So go check them out. Dr. D, last words over to you.
Okay, to your point, this is a hard one to do a last word for, but I think I want to say, I want to encourage everyone to check out Mike on Parenting on social media. Mike, obviously your tips are super aligned with our mission, which is to give parents practical tips that they can implement right away and get a positive effect out of. And so I really just appreciate everything that you shared today and this concept that a lot of what you're describing is logical and reasonable and simple, and that it's going to take parents some time and energy and effort to wrap their head around it, and they're going to make mistakes and they're going to do it wrong, and that's all part of it, and we don't have to do it perfectly. Making mistakes and coming to our kids honestly and getting their advice on what they think might help if they're a little bit older, working collaboratively with them and with our whole family is a way to be connected to your family, show each member of your family that you respect them, show them that you're listening to them, and actually have a lot of success as a parent. And only expect your kids to be kind of acting correctly or behaving or whatever 80% of the time. 20% of the time they're going to mess it up. 20% of the time we're going to mess it up. And those are really good odds. Like 4 out of 5 times hitting the mark. That's pretty awesome for a kid and pretty awesome for a parent. And setting that expectation will help us in those moments when they're off track. And then will help us parent from a better place and all get back on track faster. So we thank you so much for all of your wisdom and everything you shared with us. This has been so fun. Jake, I think you are right. I think this is our best episode yet. And I told Jake to stop saying that because he said it every time. I was like, Jake, they can't all be the best. I think you're right.
Mike, I would say that at the end of every podcast. I'm like, you were such an amazing guest. This is our best podcast ever.
Sweet.
And they're all great. So you weren't wrong, and
I appreciate
can't all be the best, but this is amazing. So thank you so much. It was so much fun. Jake needs to tell everyone to watch our episodes and sign up.
Yeah. So Mike, thanks again, man. I really I was excited about this when we first connected on TikTok. So I just appreciate your willingness and your vulnerability to come on here. I think some of the stories and the information you shared is super helpful to me. I had some light bulbs come off. So I'm hoping that our audience had some light bulbs as well. So if you like this podcast, if you got some good information from Dr. D and Mike on parenting, let's get the name right, Mike on Parenting, please go find Mike on TikTok, on Instagram. Mike, you anywhere else? That's it. So go find him on those platforms. Go watch his stuff, engage with his stuff. We're on here to help Mike grow his platform. But also, if you like this podcast, please go like, share, subscribe to the Parenting Puzzle with Dr. D. We'd greatly appreciate it. Dr. D and I love putting out content to help parents make this job just a little bit easier, because parenting is really hard, full stop. We're actually thinking about making shirts, Mike. That's how hard it is. And just, we want to keep doing this. We love making this content. So go and like, share, comment, subscribe, send it to everybody you know. Mike, thank you so much. Dr.
Thank
D.
you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review. It really helps us out and lets others discover the show.